Okay, so in today's Whiteboard Wednesday, wanted to talk about a topic that I've been thinking a lot about for Permat, but also actually applies to a lot of the customers who we serve in terms of how we think about what is the most important variable to drive impact. So some of this might sound overly simplistic, but it is the foundation on which the points of leverage will emerge. So let's just say for our business, right, for a SaaS business, actually, I'll just do it with the D2C business. So for a D2C business, let's just say you have a new customer who comes in, right, that customer, and that customer comes in at a certain CAC. And you know that that customer generally, when they come in, comes in at a certain AOV. And so you have like a certain view of like, okay, on my first purchase, based on my average order value and the CAC, I am currently acquiring customers on average overall at like a, you know, 2 ROAS, right? I'm making up a number. Okay. So this is like for your average customer you acquire through, let's just say Facebook. Fine. Now, a lot of times what people will do, and it's becoming like emergingly popular, is to say, hey, okay, for a customer, now that you've acquired them, how do you make sure you're getting as much value out of them as possible and making sure you have a good LTV? So you do things like you can introduce new SKUs, you can try to do subscriptions, you can try to do memberships, right? And these are all ways to increase sort of the lifetime value because you've already done the hard work of acquiring the customer. Now, the thing that I would suggest is when you're doing these tactics, a really good framework to think about is it needs to be more impactful than the initial customer order. And this is where I think a lot of people get it wrong in terms of what is the next thing to sell to a customer. They usually think about, hey, let's just say this first order is like $100. Can I get the next thing that the customer buys to be 50? And it's because, oh, I've already acquired this customer, I can market to them for cheaper, it kind of makes sense. My view is I actually think what you should do is instead ask, can I use any of these things to make this next thing 200 or 300, right? So actually the demand of yourself should be, how do I make it higher than the initial thing? And the reason I think that this is a very good general way to think about business is what will happen eventually is if you go down this $50 route and it starts to become smaller and smaller, is you will eventually tap out how much you can take from the customers you have already acquired, and you will start to put tremendous pressure on acquiring new customers. Now, it may turn out that actually your business just needs you to actually focus on acquiring new customers, which I would suggest is probably true if the second order is lower than the first order. So if the second order is lower than the first order and the third may be lower than the second and so on, then actually your business's greatest point of leverage in terms of driving impact is going to be on focusing on driving new customers because this is going to cap out. If on the other hand, you have a business or you have a strategy that can drive more purchasing after the first purchase, then you may not actually have to put as much pressure on the new customer acquisition. In the a really good example of this is apparel, right? So for apparel, like I wear a lot of Marine Layer. When Marine Layer first acquired me off of like one sweater, actually what they did was then they got me to then in my future orders spend way more money because I love the product and apparel is the type of product that you are more likely to spend more money in the second purchase than in the first purchase. Uh, there are other products which are the inverse of that, which is where I think things can get dangerous, where you then try to upsell add-ons later. That I think is where you really need your business is actually a new customer business. For SaaS, it's also similar. And actually, the most famous example is HubSpot, where their second product, which is the CRM product, was actually a bigger product category than their first product, which is the Marketing Hub product. So, anyways, it's a general business framework that is useful to think about when you're thinking about how to drive the most impact for your business. All right.